Good evening. My name is Nick Boudre, the supervisor of career and college programs, and welcome to your Senior Advantage webinar for the class of 2024. Tonight, we're here to focus on not only transitioning your career and college plans throughout the spring and summer, but also to prepare a plan for your senior year. Some may say you're just getting a jump start on your senior year or just getting ahead of the game a little bit. But we know that that is not the case. And in the spring and summer of your junior year, it is vital time to start preparing not only for your senior year, but for your life after high school graduation. Having this information will not only allow you and your family to make well-informed decisions throughout your senior year, but also prepare your career and college plans and put yourself at a competitive advantage the first day of your senior year next fall. To help us with this, we have a recruiting and college admissions coordinator joining us tonight, as well as one of our college advisors at our local high schools. And we also have the new principal at St. Clair County Tech to help provide some insight on some college application, the enrollment process, admissions, as well as career preparation tips for your final year in high school. As always, our conversation with our panelists will last about 30 to 40 minutes, followed by a question and answer segment that you'll ask questions at the bottom of your screen through the chat feature. You can ask questions throughout the evening. We'll just wait until the end of the discussion to ask our panelists those questions. The chat box, once again, if you scroll down to the bottom, is at the bottom of your screen. Without further ado, let's get started with our first guest. Our first guest is in her first year of college advising at Yale High School. Holly Eisler is joining us to talk a little bit about college admissions and the enrollment process for all high school seniors. Holly, how are you doing this evening?
Doing good, Nick. How are you?
Good. Just to mention, a lot of you may not be at Yale High School, but we also have college advisors at many, if not all, of our high schools in St. Clair County. So Holly, I know you've been working with the seniors, the class of 2023 seniors, but shifting gears a little bit, starting to work with your juniors. And tonight we have juniors in the audience and their families. So talk to us a little bit about what juniors should be doing this time of the year to prepare for next fall.
So to prepare for next fall, they can start thinking about what their plans are after high school. So do you want to go to college? Is that like a 4-year, a 2-year plan? Do you want to go into the trades, get a certificate, go into the workforce? So just trying to figure out what you want to do. So when we start working on that, we can go through all the steps pretty easy.
Very good. And part of that, as you start having those I call it those career and college conversations with their family, a lot of things will start to come up and a lot of options will start to come up for students and their families. And it often is referred to as a college list, even though it's just not about college. Talk to us a little bit how juniors can start to prepare these lists through those conversations.
Yeah, so the college list, when you're talking about it, you kind of want to think, like I said, like the 2-year, 4-year, and then you want to start thinking about your likely schools, your target schools, and your reach schools. So the likely schools are going to be schools that you are fairly certain you're going to get accepted into, and your GPA and like SAT scores are going to be on like the above average side. So those schools could be like SE4, where you're like, okay, I think in my range that I could get into there, like you're fairly certain about it. The target school, I would say, is something you're expected to get into. So you're not above or below with your GPA or SAT, but you're just average. So when you do apply, you are expecting to get in there. That could be like Grand Valley, SVSU, Central, like those kind of schools. Your reach is just going to be something that if you got accepted and money wasn't a problem, you'd be happy to go. You might be below average on your SAT and your like GPA, but those are schools where, you're going to apply because you're like, okay, that'd be really awesome if I got in anyways.
So we're looking at a likely school, a target school, and a reach school. So that gets us to three. If we
Yeah.
just did one of each of those categories, should students extend past three, or what's the kind of average number you would advise juniors going into their senior year to start looking at?
Um, I would say you don't want to put too much on you. So I would say if you did at least like maybe two in each category, so you were prepared for anything. So you had two likely schools, two target, two reach, just in case so you don't get into the reach, and then you can fall back on the target, and then you can fall back on the likely. You also don't want to, apply to like 10 schools if you're not like so sure right now. So kind of like narrowing it down. But if you do apply to 10, that's okay. I definitely know students who have, and they liked it, the options and stuff. So just up to like how many you want to do, but I would recommend like maybe two in each group.
Very good. And can you mix and match um, community schools, maybe some trade schools, and four-year college and universities on this list?
Yeah. Whatever like matches you and like fits into your lifestyle. So you can match like your GPA, your SAT into those, like we were saying, like if you're above average, below average, um, maybe like so fit you would want to do like what's the price range? Is that going to work out into your reach schools, your like target schools? Is it a large school, small school? Um, if what kind of programs they offer. So like if you do want trade, do they offer trade programs? Do they offer like this medical program? You want to think of all that, the campus culture, rural, urbans, like all that kind of stuff you want to add into when you start thinking about your college list, just so you get a bigger picture and it's easier to narrow it down.
And you already mentioned that a little bit. So that is referred to as match and list, correct?
Yeah, match and fit, yes.
Match and fit. Okay, so
Yes.
you're taking a match and fit, and that's what you're using to develop your list. And just to review a little bit, I have cost of attendance and tuition, looking at the school culture and setting, programs that are offered. And I'm really glad you said that, because I think we're going to get to that a little bit later about career preparation, GPA and items. Is there anything else that students can be considering in terms of this list?
Um, I guess like rural, urban areas. That's what I was thinking of. Like, do you want to live in a place where it's booming, like there's so many people, or do you want to live kind of like on the outside? I know when I went to school, I wanted to go somewhere smaller because I'm from a smaller town. So I didn't know if I wanted to transition to a bigger city just yet. So thinking about all that stuff.
All right. So now we're in our spring of our junior year, talking with our families about our current college interests for after graduation. The conversations really help us come up with kind of our thoughts on not only college but also careers after match and fit. Through that, we decided that we have about 5 to 6 schools, likely, target, and reach, that we're going to apply to next fall. The next step would be looking at applications for these schools. Talk to us a little bit about, there's two, you and I went during your prep for the segment, talked about the ways students and families will apply to these schools. Talk to us about both ways, how they're like and how they're different.
Yeah, so there's like two ways that students have been applying to schools. You can apply right on the college's website. So you're just applying through the college. You are doing just their questions. If they are saying you need to write this essay, you're writing that essay, and you're sending it right to them. Pretty much that's you doing all the stuff. So that's one way. I would say another way is Common App. That's like an application that students have been using to kind of streamline the process and have more of the college applications on in one. So Common App, you could do like, let's say you did all 10 schools, they would give you all the questions for all the schools, all the essays, and you would just do all of that, not on the website, but not on the college's website, but on its own website. And then they would send it to the schools for you. I would say for Common App, they do have the school have a part in it. So your counselors or like your college advisors are going to have to answer some questions before that gets sent. So really, like if you're thinking about that, letting someone know you did it and looking at the deadlines for it, because it's different than just doing it on the regular college's application because you're doing it yourself. When you're relying on someone else, you need to let them know beforehand so they can get that all done for you.
And is there an advantage to one? Is there a disadvantage to one option, or are they both? You and I talked a little bit about this. How can a student find the best fit for which option is best for them?
Yeah, so I would say if you wanted to get comfortable with that college's like website and their process, I would do just on the college's application. Um, you're just doing their stuff. You don't have to worry about like how do you match it to all these other schools. You're only doing that school, you're only thinking about that one. So that's if you're like, want to just do one at a time. The Common App, I guess, would be good if you're like, okay, I just want to get it all done right now. Do all the questions, write the essays, and then you don't have to think about it later. Like you did all, let's say, all the 10 schools. So now you don't have to go one by one and do it. So it's just kind of like, do you want to be more personal or do you want to just do it as a group?
That's good. And you mentioned something a few moments ago that I want to go back to and reiterate a little bit about dates and
Mhm.
application dates. Talk about what students can be doing right now to help prepare for the application process at the schools that they're interested in applying to.
Yeah. So deadlines are really important when it comes to college. So if you are already thinking about some schools, looking at the deadline for their applications and when they open, so then you know how much time you have to apply to those schools, because you don't want to think later on like, oh, I'll just apply here and it's already past the deadline or I needed this information then. So beforehand, maybe during the summer, before you're already checking those deadlines, even if it says like it's in like, you know, March, you still know like, okay, I have this much time, and you're not just like kind of just going in there like blind.
Very good. Well, speaking of important dates, there's also a large portion of their plan that we need to talk about, and there's a specific date for it, and it is the FAFSA. And I'm sure there's a lot of juniors right now asking why I'm bringing this up, but let's talk about the FAFSA and its role in students and families preparing for life after high school and throughout their senior year, and then we'll get down some of the details of that and how it's important for them. So talk to us a little bit about what the FAFSA is and how it's going to play a role in their plan for their senior year.
Yeah. So FAFSA is the free application for federal student aid. That is just a application that you'll fill out that sees your eligibility for financial aid. And financial aid is just like, are you getting grants from the school, scholarships based on that information? This is where you'd see if you got a Pell Grant, the Michigan Achievement Scholarship that is just brand new this year. And you're seeing how much you could potentially get in federal loans. So that's what you would do on that form. It doesn't mean you're already like accepting anything. It's just a form you fill out. You fill out all these questions, you put like income information, how many in the household, all that stuff. And they'll come up with a number. And then based on that number, schools will figure out like, okay, we can give you this much in scholarships or grants and all that.
Very good. And talk to us a little. Well, I'm glad you brought up the Michigan Achievement Scholarship, because I'm gonna my closing talk about that and what that's going to mean for students in terms of affording college and their financial plan. But there's a specific date for this application that's important, and talk to us a little bit about that and how it's different for next fall.
Yeah, so this year they are kind of changing the form a little. So they're, I think, adding some stuff, changing the way they worded things to make it more student based and not so much on the family, because it was really more about your parents' information. So they're kind of changing it more in student. There might still be stuff, they're still coming out with details. So not 100% sure what exactly they're changing. So they moved it back to December 1st. That's just going to give them more time to figure out everything. It's usually October 1st, so it is kind of a setback a few months, but that just gives you more time to prepare your college list. And then you can also create an FSA ID, which is just like your username and password that you would use on your FAFSA form. So you can get that prepared. So when it's open, you can just start filling out the form right away.
Well, I think that's one of the best descriptions that I've heard on FastFlow in a while, for juniors, going into their senior year. And once again, one of the largest pieces of their plan in terms of affording their post-secondary plan for education or formal training programs. So what advantage do the juniors have that are in the audience right now and their families, or that watch this recording in the weeks to come? What advantage do the juniors, soon to be seniors, have by preparing their plan throughout the spring and summer before they even start their senior year?
I would say the advantage would probably be that while you are doing all your like college stuff, so like the applying, the FAFSA, all that is during your senior year when you want to have fun, where you're kind of having your last first day or homecoming, all that stuff is happening at the same time when you need to do this. So if you already planned things in the spring and the summer, you're already kind of figuring out like, this is what I like to do. This is maybe where I want to go. You can start doing that, and then it can just be like easy, like, okay, I just applied here because I know I want to go here or these 5 schools. Puts a little less stress on you, especially since you want to have fun. It's your last year. You want to enjoy it. So kind of planning ahead is going to give you that chance to like enjoy the rest of the year.
Perfect. And my last question before we move to our second guest, what if you had one piece of advice to give juniors right now before they enter their spring and summer, before their senior year of high school, what would it be?
I would say don't put too much stress on you about what you want to be when you grow up. So like what career you want to be exactly. You don't need to know exactly what you want to do, but just having kind of like a rough like idea of like, okay, I really like helping people, or I love science. Kind of thinking of that. So when you do like go to school, you're like, oh, I think I would love to do psychology, kind of like thinking about yourself. Don't put too much stress on it. People change their minds a lot. So just kind of like figuring out yourself is probably going to be the best thing for you while you're figuring out everything after high school.
Well, thank you so much, Holly. That was a great start to the planning for their senior year and putting them at a great advantage. I like how you ended there with that piece of advice. It's a process. Right now, we're starting that process. And throughout, from now until the day that you walk across the stage to get the diploma, you're going to be going through that process of making some informed decisions on what life after high school looks like. But Holly gave you a lot of important, vital pieces for that plan that'll allow you to flow through that process, to experience that process and get the most out of those opportunities. Once again, just to review really quick, talk about making your college list and the plans to likely target and reach schools, and use a match and fit to be applying to the right ones that meet your career and college plans. And a little bit about the FAFSA date that's going to December 1st, not the original October 1st for the years before, but the importance and what that offers students in terms of their planning. And then not stressing, enjoying your senior year. But when you start next year, around Labor Day, before Labor Day, there's a lot going on. It's an exciting time of your last year in high school, your last year in K through 12. So having a plan going into that's going to allow you to experience and take advantage of many opportunities. So our next guest, we're going to expand a little bit on this college list, and we're going to talk about some opportunities that may be an option for many students that are in the audience currently. We are very fortunate to have a community college in St. Clair County. Not all counties in Michigan have colleges or community colleges in their own backyard. And our second guest is the admissions and recruiting coordinator from SE4, Natalie Perlston. Thank you for joining us. How are you doing, Natalie?
I'm good. How are you, Nick?
I'm great. It's great to see you again.
Yes, sir.
We're very lucky to have you here to talk a little bit about, SC4. We're going to talk about what, SC4 offers as a community college option, but also that's going to give students and families also an insight of the admissions process. So talk to us a little bit about what that admissions process looks like at SC4.
So at SE4, the admission process is incredibly simple. It is a free application that you can find right on our website, right on the front page. It should take students only about 5 minutes to fill it out, as long as you know your address and, demographic info like that. Then to get that process takes about 2 weeks, and then you'll receive a letter in the mail with next steps.
So when do students need to apply for this? Can they apply now? Is it during the summer?
Yeah, so the great thing with SE4 is that we have a rolling admission, and your application is good for 2 years. So if you could apply to SE4 right now and decide come next year that you actually want to go somewhere else, but then transfer back, your application is still good within that 2-year window. So you are good to go to apply now. You can apply in the fall with the rest of your other schools, whatever works best for you.
Well, I would think, for the students that really want to take and get a head start and really get it started, I would apply this spring and summer, but that's just me. And I'll continue to push that. But and not saying one, when we're talking likely and target and reach schools, we're not saying one's better than the other. Holly hit on it. It's about that perfect fit, that match for your plan. How's SE4 different in terms of just the application from a 4-year to college or university?
So we're different because everything's a little bit simpler. So if you're one of those students who maybe is overwhelmed with your choices, or you're not really sure what you want to be when you grow up or what you want to do when you leave high school, it's a great and it's an affordable option where you can kind of start to take classes that are definitely going to transfer wherever you decide to go, and give yourself some breathing room to figure out what it is what you want while still getting a great education.
Well, I love that you just hit on that, because it's something that's coming up daily for us right now. And I love it because students and families are taking a look at, financial, the best financial options for them in terms of their post-secondary plan. And you mentioned that affordable option. But why is it an affordable option? I'm going to just throw out the term prereqs. Talk to us a little bit how that's different from SE4 to a 4-year college or university.
Yeah, so in terms of affordability is students just need to submit like an SAT score, and we use that for placement. So in theory, you really can start anywhere. So, or if you're like wanting to go into nursing or one of these programs that's like a pre-law or a pre-dental, you can take all of your pre-admission classes for any of those programs that you're going to be in school for a long time and acquire a lot of debt, most likely for. You can take all of those at SE4, and if you work closely with an advisor, you can guarantee that all of that work is going to transfer and get you into the programs you want to go.
So in your opinion, and I hate to put you on the spot, but I do have you spotlighted on the webinar right now, so I can ask you any question that I need to. Do you think every senior in St. Clair County should apply to SE4?
Absolutely. So I tell students when I meet them, you can't go wrong with applying to SE4. It is no money out of your pocket to fill out an application. A lot of colleges during certain times of the year, like their application may cost money. So it's totally free. And you know what? Like, I hate to call it the backup plan, but sometimes plans change. So it's a good school just to have in your back pocket, whether it's your plan or not, because you really can't go wrong.
No, you can't. And once again, I said it in your intro, even if it's a backup plan, some students may have backup plans that don't consider SC4. And so having a backup school, every student's gonna have a backup plan, but not every student in Michigan or across the country has a community college of SC4's caliber right here within their local, in their neighborhood,
Yeah,
within a short
exactly.
driving distance.
Exactly. And, if driving isn't something you want to do, transportation's an issue, we have complete degrees that are all online. So if that's a better way of learning for you, I have tons of classes online.
So what advantage would a student, and you mentioned this a little bit ago,
Mhm.
would a student that attends SC4 and considers transferring to a four-year college or university, talk to us about those plans and what that looks like when you're looking to not only just go to SC4 and get an associate degree.
Sure. So I would say in general, most of the students I work with do want to transfer to a four-year school. So they have a couple different options. SC4 has over 30 partnership agreements with four-year schools in the state of Michigan, where essentially we've created either you spend 2 years at SC4 and then 2 more years at that four-year school, depending on your program, walk away with your bachelor's degree after that. But in some cases, we even have 3+1s where you can pay an SC4 price for 3 years, 1 year of paying a four-year school price and get your bachelor's degree that way. So we have those transfer pathways from everything from nursing to criminal justice. So truly any fit, we can definitely build you a schedule where going to a four-year school is going to make sense for you. And I'll be honest with you guys, I've had a student come to me who wants to go to Lake Superior State for fishery and wildlife management. And I didn't know you could go to school for that. But I found him 2 years worth of classes he could take at SC4 that will absolutely transfer up to Lake Superior State. So really anything you want to do can start at SC4, and you can really set yourself up for success by having those classes at a more affordable rate and smaller class sizes too. That's another perk.
Yes, absolutely. And I'll probably pause here for a second because last week we had we were working with the senior class and getting them ready for graduation and beyond. And during that webinar, sisters that go to SE4 were some of our guests on the panel, and they talked about, that it's not SE4 is not a commuter school, that there's a culture, a culture there. They met a lot of friends from across the county and outside St. Clair County that are attending schools, and that it offers more than just prereqs and an opportunity just to come and take some classes and then return home.
Absolutely. There are sports teams from men's basketball to esports to dance. There's clubs, student government, beautiful field house where you can go work out for free. So you don't need a fitness membership somewhere. So there's definitely a lot of amenities.
Very good. And to go back about the partnerships, because students and families are going to hear about this, and this is something that they may not be aware of, the Michigan Transfer Agreement.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about that.
Yes. So MTA for short is really an incredible deal that we have in this state. So essentially what it means is at a community college, you can take 30 credit hours that end up being all of your general ed requirements that make up the first year of any four-year degree, and they're guaranteed to transfer to any school in the state. With some exceptions, like the University of Michigan, it gets a little difficult. But truly anywhere else, it is a seamless process and you're guaranteed get all your gen eds done at SE4. They will go wherever you need them to go.
So I talked a little bit with Holly about the advantages that seniors would put themselves at, next year's seniors, class of 2024, by starting their planning right now with their families and throughout the spring and summer. What, in your opinion, what advice or what advantages do you think that students would put themselves at by doing so?
Well, I definitely agree with Holly because senior year goes by so fast and you definitely want to enjoy it. So I have found that when students start to prepare during this time and take up some of their summer, just takes the stress off. So you're not scrambling like this time next year when you are a senior trying to figure out what comes next. Don't do that to yourself. My other advice is go tour as many campuses as you can, because those tours, getting on the campus, you are really going to actually see and feel what you like and what you don't like. Some places might surprise you, others might disappoint you, but it's a good way to weed out schools and figure out what actually feels right.
Yes, and that hasn't been the option over the last 2 to 3 years, and students really didn't have that opportunity to go out and get that feel for for colleges and universities and the campuses
Right.
to make that decision. And now it's available, and we keep advising students, telling them that is a normal part of this process, is visiting the school that you're going to spend, 2 to 4 years at, and seeing the school, seeing the building, seeing the facilities, knowing that may be home for the next 2 to 4 years or plus.
Definitely.
Well, what else advice would you end your segment on here, that if you had one piece of advice for the juniors, whether they're considering SE4 or just preparing for their senior year of high school next fall?
So I would definitely say, it sounds like a cliche, but be organized, keep everything in a folder, because you don't want to be like, trying to figure out what piece goes to what. Send in your SAT scores to whatever school early, because whether that is going to base your whether they're going to use that to like get scholarships for you, or if it's placement at SE4, that's a big one. And then the other thing is start looking for scholarships. And when senior year comes around and you can start applying for those local scholarships through the St. Clair Community Foundation, apply to as many as possible, because not enough people do, and that money just sits there otherwise.
Well, very good. Thank you so much, Natalie. I appreciate you giving us an insight to not only the admissions process at SC4, but the advantages of putting a community college in your plans for high school, for after high school, and part of that plan that Holly talked about. We'll come back to you. I know I see some questions popping up in the chat. We'll come back to you during the Q&A period with some of those questions. And I think that there'll be some more generated here as we go to Leslie. So next, our final guest, Leslie Murphy, is coming to us from St. Clair County Tech. She is the brand new principal. Thank you so much for joining us, Leslie.
Happy to be here, Nick.
Thank you. Well, I would say this. I feel like careers has came up in almost every part and every question and every answer. I'm so glad that it organically happened that way, because it's leading us now to your segment and how important career prep is. I think a lot of the audience right now is probably asking, well, is this for tech students? But the reason that you're joining us today is to talk about not only about how tech students prepare, but how that's actually something that all students can do in preparing their plan for their senior year. So thank you so much for being here today and giving the insight of what you guys do at Tech in your programs and helping all students.
Sure.
So talk to us a little bit, and I know, because a huge fan of Tech and all the programs, what your Tech students typically do in their programs, their junior and senior years, to incorporate their career plans into their post-secondary plans for after high school graduation.
Nick, I'd like to just say first that a very common misconception of students of tech is that they're not college-bound students, and that's very false. The majority of our students do attend college. But I would just like to say for our students on tonight that just because you don't want to go to college doesn't mean tech isn't for students of that career path either. So, but I would say the one difference that tech students have from other students that I would encourage the students on here tonight to think about is how they can gain some work-based learning in their 11th grade or 12th grade year. There's lots of different ways to gain work-based learning experiences. You don't have to be a tech student to figure out how to do that. Think about your career path. Think about what jobs you think you're interested in. You could do this by checking out your Zello, but I'm going to think that at this point in life, you're pretty tired of people asking you, what do you want to be when you grow up? So you're probably starting to get a sense for what things you do and don't like. And if you don't know the answer to that question, there is no better way than to just explore it. There is lots of different ways to see if you can do job shadows. There's lots of different area companies who are willing to host students in job shadow opportunities. Your high school counselors should be able to help you with that, can help you with that. But I will tell you, sometimes your mom and dad might know somebody. Sometimes your aunt's best friend has the job that you want. Don't be afraid to use your network. And it might feel like at this point in life, I don't really have a network, Miss Murphy, but you do. You have people in your life right now who can help you identify people who have jobs that you like. I'd like to give you a personal example. I went to Port Huron Northern High School, and when I was in my freshman year at Michigan State, I went online and found the contact information. I was at school because I wanted to be a broadcaster and I wanted to work at Fox Sports Detroit, which I did. I went online and I looked up one of their on-air hosts' email. His name was Ryan Field. And I just out of the blue sent Ryan an email and said, hey, I'm an 18-year-old girl you don't know who wants the job you have. What career advice do you have for me? He sent me an email with the most touching, helpful career advice I'd ever received. I followed his advice. I got a job where he worked and we became coworkers and friends. So I just want you guys to think really creatively about who in your life might inspire what you want to do when you grow up. And there's no better way to know and to make the right decisions, college, career, post-secondary, what am I going to do than to just start to explore that right now.
Wow. That is absolutely perfect, Leslie. Thank you so much. And I do want to go back to the very beginning. Yes, tech students, I think, that misconception, tech students do go to college. Actually, they have one of the highest college going rates in our county. And what a tremendous, just a intro to your segment. But I'm going to go back because I want to pick this apart a little bit because of some of these pieces for their plan. And the first was work-based learning opportunities. This is something that may be new for a lot of students and families they're hearing for the first time. Talk to us about those.
Yeah, work-based learning is very popular in CTE. We do it all the time. And our goal long-term here at Tech is for every single one of our students to have a work-based learning experience. 900 kids in the county is my goal. So I think we're getting really close to that. But the idea is that part of your day of your learning includes working hands-on at a job site. And that could be a lot of different things. It should start with a job shadow where you're hands off, we say hands in pockets, just observing, learning, asking questions. Once you have made that connection or you've received some sort of training specific to that field, you may earn high school credit to do work at an internship or something like that, which many of our students here at Tech do. My senior year at Port Huron Northern, I worked at Radio First in downtown Port Huron. And I didn't do that through Northern. I just found connections on my own. I asked if they would be willing to let me do a one-day job shadow. That one-day job shadow turned into an interview. I didn't even know it. And I got hired right after that for a job that I didn't even know existed. So that's kind of what that work-based learning model can look like for students, even if they're not tech students.
And is this something, and we're talking right now about getting that jump start. What advantage would students have by preparing that right now versus going into their counselor or college advisor next fall or late in the fall and saying, hey, you know what, I think I want to do a work-based learning around November and December. What advantage or disadvantage would they be by starting that right now and throughout the spring and summer?
I think what it does is it makes you more confident in your plan for life after high school. And I think what's really beneficial about spending the time doing some work-based learning in your 11th and 12th year is that you'll feel more confident picking a college, declaring a major, or deciding I don't want to go to school at all. And work-based learning would allow you to know then that trade school is what you need to do, or I'm going to enter the workforce right away. And here are the careers in which I can do that. So I think just becoming familiar with the workforce itself, that industry, the medical industry is so different than the manufacturing industry, so different than broadcasting, where I came from, different than education. So just becoming familiar with the expectations in those industries and what paths and choices students have to make along the way.
Well, let's dig into some of the other things that we can add to this plan. And it got brought up about applications and admissions process, and scholarships even got mentioned. And we're starting to talk about building out a plan, more than just writing things down. And one thing that Tech is really well known for, and their students, I hear this all the time, just out with the employers and our business partners, Tech portfolios. Talk to us a little bit about what a Tech portfolio is and what they contain, and how that the students that may not be at Tech can prepare those their senior year.
Yeah, That's a great question, Nick. I happen to have one right here.
Yes.
Our students build a portfolio that looks like this. I'm going to walk you through it a little bit, but I do have some tips on how you could make something all on your own. So each one of our tech portfolios have these elements in them. There's a cover letter, a resume. There's samples from their educational history. There's certifications that they've earned, awards, samples of work, letters of recommendation. And then section 8 is kind of like a hodgepodge for us, but that's where we really have students do post-secondary planning, which is the fancy words for what are you going to do after high school and how will you get there successfully. But my favorite 3 items from a portfolio like this, I mean, look at how thick that is. We put a lot of time and energy into these, but my 3 pieces of advice, my 3 favorite portfolio items are a resume. Anyone can make a resume. There are some wonderful templates out there. I have some links that I could provide you guys with tonight. I could give Mr. Boudre and maybe he could share them out with the group. But a resume is number 1. Can I just say that a resume is never done? I could probably work on my resume tomorrow and I have no desire to switch my job. So a resume is never done. Number 2 is a cover letter that is catered to the position you're applying for. So you're going to go ahead and find those job skills that are listed right in the job description and highlight them and talk very specifically in the cover letter about why you're the best applicant for that job. The third thing I'm going to recommend are samples of work. Samples of work will set you apart from other applicants. At Tech, we always tell students, never show up to an interview empty-handed. And you never know when an opportunity could turn into an interview. So you always want to have these things at your fingertips. Maybe you have them in a Google Drive. Maybe it's not even printed. Maybe you are emailing those to prospective employers. But those are my portfolio pieces of advice.
Well, you're leading me right to my next question, Leslie, is interviews. And that's part of this process of you preparing your students for life after high school graduation.
Yes.
Talk to us about how the mock interviews that your students go through and how students from all over the county can prepare for their interviews coming up with colleges or jobs this summer, or maybe even jobs after high school graduation when they enter the workforce.
Yeah. Job interviewing is a life skill. Everyone in their life will sit through more than one interview. And whether, like you said, that's a college admissions type of an interview. Some students have to do interviews even to get into their specific programs. Like I know when I went to Michigan State, I didn't necessarily have to do an interview just to become a student, but if I wanted to be in the School of Journalism, or if I wanted to be in this niche group within the College of Journalism, you had to go through an interview process. So whether it's for a job or something else, interviewing is a very real skill and you can develop it. You can sharpen those skills, just like if you go outside in your driveway and shoot 50 free throws every day, you'll get better at free throws. Interviews are no different. The best way to go about doing that is to go online and literally type in commonly asked interview questions. And then all you're going to do is sit down with different people in your life and ask them to ask you those commonly asked interview questions. Ask them how they would answer that commonly asked interview question. And the more that you're practicing it, just like those free throws, the better you'll get at it. So tech students practice mock interviews with their instructors in both their junior and senior year. And then they also are interviewed by industry professionals who we bring in to meet with our students. They're given feedback on how they did. The biggest thing is confidence. How can you project confidence? And you're not going to feel confident if it's the very first thing that you're trying something new. So the more that you can practice it, the more you can kind of get those jitters out and put your best foot forward.
What would your one, and you just mentioned it a little bit, was confidence and never showing up to an interview empty-handed. Is there any other advice that you would give students as they enter interviews for jobs or for college programs?
Do as much research as you can. Do your homework, know your stuff. If it's a company, what's their mission statement? bring it up in your interview. If it's a college, you know, what is that college's purpose? What kind of information can you find out? Can you find a student who's in the program that you're looking for and ask them questions about their experience and use that to prepare for your interview? Again, we keep talking about networking, and I know we're not quite there, Nick, but the easiest way to go about that, quite honestly, is LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the professional network that you can use to connect with people who have jobs or are at colleges that you want to end up at. And I think connecting with those individuals would prepare you to be an informed interviewee in those types of situations.
No, I love that you hit on that. It was a couple of questions away. Talk to us a little bit about what tech students are doing, because it's not like the social media thing. You know, a lot of students will say, well, you know, that's aged out social media, you know, that's more for parents and not for me, you know.
Facebook.
Yeah, like
moms.
Facebook, aged out, right? Like, talk to me a little bit about LinkedIn, because I'm a huge fan, even myself, and I'm not even looking for another job. I just love going and connecting with people. And honestly, daily, people from across the country connect with me because we're in the same work.
Yes. Yeah. By the way, I'm a soccer mom, so if there's any soccer moms on, I didn't mean any offense. But I know what you mean. A lot of times students, you know, that's what their impression of social media is. And LinkedIn is different. It really is trying to build a professional network for yourself. And in the beginning, when you're getting started, your network might be a little bit more social. It might be your friends or your parents' friends or things like that. But the more you go through experiences like college and you start your first internship and you get your first job, you'll start to create your own network. And the best thing that you can do is to keep those connections, hang on to them, because as you go through life, it really is who you know. And that's true in most of the industries out there. So we at Tech, when the students build their portfolios, they also build a LinkedIn network or a LinkedIn profile. It's really easy once you have these pieces. Once you have a resume, it's very simple to type that same information into a LinkedIn profile and use it to connect with people, again, who have the jobs that you might want or the careers that you might want. Yeah, LinkedIn is very good. You can get resources on there, articles, and actually on the LinkedIn website, I'll just say this. I have a list of things that I'm hoping Nick can share it with you guys, but
Yeah.
On the LinkedIn website itself, there's a way for you to, they'll walk you through video step-by-step on how to build a really strong profile.
Yeah, Leslie, I'll send that out. There'll be an email that goes out over about the next week or so once the recording of this webinar is prepared, with resources like Leslie's talking about right now and other ones that we'll be sharing with you. I also want to move to, and Leslie, I apologize, we kind of talked about this, but I'm sure you're ready for it too. And you talked about work experience, and you and I have talked offline, not even preparing for this, about high school students that kind of don't give themselves enough credit about part-time jobs that they have and the working. But what does that mean in terms of building work experience, skills that employers and colleges are going to be looking at here in the next year or two?
Yeah, I often talk with students when we go to build their resumes. They'll be like, but Miss Murphy, I've never had a job. But Miss Murphy, I don't have any skills. And I say to them, you're lying to me. You do.
Yeah.
So employers like to see even things like a commitment. Were you in the marching band for 4 years? Did you do 2 years of a varsity sport? Anything that shows a long-term commitment to something is impressive to employers. And I know to you, you're like, 2 years, what's that? Guess what? They're going to like that. Trust me. We talk to them all the time, Nick and I. Even babysitting, being able to work with people. There's a lot of things that kids don't always recognize are great examples of skills that they're building. Any sort of extracurricular, anything is great. Any volunteer hours that you're getting through NHS, student council. I mean, really, there are so many things that students do on a regular basis that they could be listing as skills on a resume that they just don't realize they already have in their back pocket.
Well, thank you so much. I'm sorry for the impromptu question, but we were heading down that route of really building not only a portfolio, but the resumes. And I think it's important for students to understand that they are building their resumes every day in high school, from the moment that they actually stepped in as a freshman until they're preparing for the first, their last year in high school. Whether it's advice.
And a job at Pizza Hut is a good job, guys. List that. That's a big deal. Don't discount your Pizza Hut job.
No, do not discount anything that you're doing, because you are preparing you're preparing for your career. You just don't know it yet. Whether it's advice, Leslie, for getting ready for life after high school graduation, or maybe it's advice for this spring and summer, maybe it's advice for their whole senior year. What one piece of advice or some advice would you leave the current juniors and their families as they're entering the spring and summer?
I just don't think you can do too much career exploration. Don't ever underestimate career exploration. I cannot tell you, I'm sure Natalie could give us, or Holly could give us, some statistics on the number of students who changed their major in the middle of college. And I think if students were a little more intentional about career exploration in their junior and senior year, they may be able to save themselves some money in college by not changing majors and losing credits. And so I think that definitely career exploration is always good. Job shadow as much as you can, intern as much as you can, even if it's unpaid, because work experience, again, it will serve you forever. And I just think figure out ways that you can learn more about people who do the thing that you love to do. And I feel like I kind of keep coming back to that, but don't be afraid to send a random stranger a message on Instagram or LinkedIn or somewhere and ask them for career advice. How did you get where you are? How can I be like you? And don't want you guys to talk to scary strangers. That's not what I'm saying. But don't be afraid to seek out advice from people who are in the positions that you would want to be in someday. You will be surprised who is willing to share wisdom with you, because once upon a time, they were a 17-year-old trying to figure out who they want to be when they grow up.
Thank you so much, Leslie, for that tremendous segment. Actually, Natalie chimed in through the chat and said that she did a complete 360 and changed her plans. And so did I. I changed my plans senior year. I changed my plans in college. And the more that you don't do that, the more time and money that you save. So I talked about work-based learning opportunities and exploring, and the importance of career exploration, and then all the options that you can do, that you can be in charge of your future and in charge of your plan this spring and summer throughout your senior year, getting you ready for life after high school graduation and that career that's waiting for you at the end of that road. Portfolios and resumes. And once again, I wrote down Leslie's 3 main components of a portfolio, a resume, and it's never done. And you got to get it started now so you can continue that improvement throughout your senior year. Having a cover letter with the skills and qualifications that you already have and you just may not know yet. And then a sample of your work. And you may be thinking, I'm not working yet, but you are. You're working in your school, you're working in your organizations and clubs and all your volunteer experiences. You're doing the work now that you need to start recording for your these applications and job interviews that are going to be coming in the next month or so, or the next couple of years. So in closing, I know we're getting to the end of the evening here. We have some information that'll help you formalize this plan. The Michigan Achievement Scholarship. I mentioned I was going to talk to you a little bit about this when Holly talked about it. This is the brand new state scholarship that was announced this year for the graduating senior of the class of 2023. But it's going to be available for a class of 24 and beyond. This is a tremendous opportunity for students and their families for affording your post-secondary plans to either attend a community college, a four-year university, or a trade school. Here's a little bit of a breakdown of what it can financially mean if you qualify fully for this. You can get up to $2,750 for attending a community college like SC4 for up to 3 years. You can get up to $5,500 for attending a Michigan public university or college for up to 5 years. and then up to $4,000 for a private college here in Michigan for up to 5 years. This is a renewable scholarship that the amount will you can get every year once you renew your FAFSA application every year into school. To give you a little bit of statistics, not only is that money that's on your screen right now really important, but also the amount of students that this will be awarded to. Right now, 8 out of 10 new college students who enroll in Michigan will be eligible to receive this. That's 65% of students may attend college free. And moving back a couple slides, 94% of students that go to a community college will qualify for this. 80% that go to a private college university, and about 75% that go to a public 4-year university. And it all is based off of your FAFSA. So this is why the FAFSA will be so important your senior year and part of your plan. And as always, you can go to our website for your career and college planning, bwcan.org. That's bwcan.org. Here you can find the recording of this webinar and our previously recorded webinars over the last few years, and all of your career and college resources that we put out. We also have you can sign up for a monthly BWCAN newsletter that gives you updates and resources from St. Clair County RESA, Community Foundation, and our community and state partners. I also want to give a special thanks to all of our panelists for being here at this time of the year. They're extremely busy, and this is the time of the year that they took out of those schedules to be here to help you with your plan for your senior year. We look forward to work with you next year, and thank you for joining us. I'm Nick Boudreau from St. Clair County RESA. Have a good evening.